Well, isn't football just a funny old game? I was minutes away from sitting here giving a speech regarding how I think some people had good performances, but there were no great performances, and ultimately that's just the standard that Manchester United are at right now, and even against a really poor Manchester City side, that is just about as good as we are. But then one man decided to turn their good performance into a great performance and single-handedly drag the team not only from defeat to a draw, but from defeat to an outright victory over Manchester City in the Manchester Derby. Because let's be honest, that was not a proper Manchester Derby, not even close to a Manchester Derby, and neither side. There is, I would say, not a single player other than AMAD Diallo should be walking away from that match saying that they gave everything for their club in one of the biggest games for the club. AMAD is the only person that can come away and say that now, because I don't think there was a single City player that had a great game, and other than AMAD, I don't think there's a single Manchester United player that had a great game. There was no passion, there was no pace to the game, there were just so much periods of boredom just throughout the match. Even as a Manchester United fan, I don't know what it was like for the neutrals. At least as a Manchester United fan, I could get myself into it by just sort of trying to G myself up and say, come on, show a bit more fight, show a bit more passion. But it was just non-existent from a lot of players in that football match. But look, we've won the game. We're up to 12th, which is a mad thing to say even of itself. But we are up to 12th, and the point difference up to, I think it's 4th or 5th now, is only like 4 or 5 points. So to get that result, to win this Manchester Derby, is massive in the context of where we're going and where we're looking to go over the course of the next few weeks and into the January transfer window, where stuff is going to happen. I think a lot is going to happen in the January transfer window, and I'm pleased that I can sit here talking about a victory today, because it means I don't have to talk about the stuff that people were talking about pre-kickoff, and we will get to that, but I want to focus on the game first, and I want to talk about the people who I think had good performances, and those are the back three and Mazraoui. I think Martinez handled Haaland absolutely perfectly. I think Harry Maguire did his job as the central centre-back absolutely brilliantly. The amount of headed balls he got clear, the amount of last-ditch tackles to break up Manchester City chances. I think a lot went under the radar from Harry Maguire today, and I think he did a really good job. But the best of the back three, so much so that he ran himself knackered, was Matthias de Ligt. He was phenomenal. His play with Mazraoui against Doku, and then Foden when he was drifting in, Haaland when he came over, De Bruyne when he came over, I thought de Ligt was absolutely outstanding. I was sitting here last week talking about de Ligt's worst performance in a Manchester United shirt so far. That was one of his, if not best, performances in a Manchester United shirt so far. Again, I'm not saying he had a great game, but he had a good game. He did his job. He did his job really, really well. And then again, I thought Mazraoui did well. I don't think I can say Diallo had a good or great game. I still think he struggles on that left-hand side of the pitch. And to be honest, not a lot came down that side. Every time City got the ball, it went out to Doku. Then when Doku went out for Grealish, every time City got the ball, it went out to Grealish. Diallo wasn't really having to deal with Bernardo Silva or De Bruyne on that side of the pitch an awful lot at all. So I can't really comment on him defensively. And then the way we played offensively, again from Diallo, it was sort of like he got the ball, came back and passed it. So I can't really say he had a good performance. Whereas the rest of that back line, I thought had really, really good performances. Then we move into the midfield. Manuel Ugarte is getting better and better and better and better every single week. And again, now that we've won the game, I'm almost tempted to upgrade his performance from good to great. Because that was Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne's first match playing together all season. And if it wasn't for Manuel Ugarte, I think they would have got a hell of a lot more of the ball. He was fantastic in there. And he was supplemented by Kobbie Mainoo, who looked back to his best today as well. Again, not an amazing performance from him, but considering he had to come on for Mason Mount, who I was gutted for, absolutely gutted for Mason Mount, because he played so well in midweek and he really deserved his starting spot. As you know, if you watched my video at the week in midweek, I said Mason Mount should start this game. He did, and I'm gutted for him that he went off. But him coming off allowed Mainoo to come on, and Mainoo had a good game, which then freed Bruno to go into a better position further forward, where then Bruno had a good game. But I would still say not a great game. There were still far too many flicks. a few too many whinges for my liking. He put in a couple of dodgy tackles. I think he was lucky to get away with a yellow card for a couple of challenges, Bruno. And again, I would just like to see him be a little bit less flamboyant. Like, he shouldn't be the one doing the flicks and tricks. He's the leader. He's the ball player. He should be the one getting on the ball and just spraying passes. He's not looking for the little back heels round the corner. That let me down a couple of times today. But ultimately, when the pressure came up for him, okay, he missed the first one. Again, if Bruno scores the first one, we're talking about a great performance. He missed the first one, but he got his composure back and he took that penalty with full confidence and he buried it and made it 1-1. And I think Rasmus had a good game as well. I think he, again, was starved of service today because of the way we played. Don't get me wrong. We weren't going for it. We weren't gung-ho up until we were basically in the last 10 minutes. And I think Rasmus was a victim of that again. I think he caused Ruben Diaz problems, considering how good Ruben Diaz is. He was linking up the play well, and his pass to Bruno was absolutely exceptional. And again, on another day, if Bruno takes that chance, we're talking about a brilliant link-up play from Rasmus Højlund. But player of the match, absolutely relentless. The one player that you can say, I am proud that this player wears a Manchester United shirt, is AMAD Diallo. He has been absolutely lights out all season long so far. And it comes back to what people were saying last season when Erik ten Hag wasn't playing him. We could see it then. He was having good performances last season under Ten Hag, but he wasn't getting the minutes. He made a great start to this season, and then Ten Hag took him out. And now Ruben Amorim's come in, and whether he plays him as the right wing-back or the right forward, he does not stop giving every inch for this football club. And he is the reason we come away with a win in the Manchester derby today. His relentless running, his non-stop effort, his desire to keep creating chances for himself and for others is something that every single other player should be looking at in this squad and going, I want to be more like him. Why aren't I more like him? And I think there are some players that, again, we can talk about in a moment, that should be looking at that AMAD performance and saying, oh, that's why he's playing. That's why I'm sitting on the bench. That's why I'm not even in the squad today. Because that's what it means to be a Manchester United player. Not how many flicks and tricks I can do. Not how many goals I've scored over the last 2 or 3 seasons. But the amount of effort you are willing to put in. The ability to sacrifice yourself to create those opportunities for Manchester United. And those 2 goals epitomise it. He makes the run to close down the Manchester City back pass. He wins the back pass. He has the awareness to spot Mateus Nunes herring back to try and make up for it, and then wins the penalty. And then the second goal is just, how many times have Manchester United players bottled it in that position? How many times have I sat here and said, so-and-so's played a really good ball in behind and Rashford bottled it? Or even Højlund has bottled it. Or Garnacho's bottled it. Or whoever over the last few years. You go through any of the Manchester United forward line players, even the likes of Ronaldo and all that lot, just the amount of players that get in that position and bottle it. The moment that ball went over the top, AMAD was prepared to die to win that ball. So much so that the Manchester City goalkeeper bottled it. That is what it takes. That's the bottle you've got to have. If Ederson would have kept going, I don't know who would have got that ball first. But regardless, there would have been a huge collision. But AMAD said, I am prepared to win that ball even if Ederson flattens me. Even if Ederson gets the ball first and flattens me, I'm going to get to this. I'm going to do everything in my power to get to this ball. And Ederson bottles it. He flicks it over him. He scuffs the finish. Don't get me wrong. He scuffs the finish. And how a player with such a good a weak foot as Jesper Guardiola is... you see the amount of goals he scores with his right foot. Why he decides to try and backheel it, I don't know. He could have just swept it off the line, but I don't care. AMAD's put the ball in the back of the net and Manchester United have got 3 points. The only real other concern, of course, is the goal that we conceded, which is yet another set piece, but it's certainly not in the same category as the ones we've conceded recently. It's a bizarre circumstance where De Bruyne's corner comes to Gundogan. Gundogan underhits the cross. AMAD sort of gets there as De Bruyne gets there, which means it perfectly comes into an outswinging cross, which just goes in between everyone, and Gvardiol's got a free header. Again, I think if we're not defending in the box system, if we're actually set up in a defensive manner where players that should be marking players are actually marking players, that sort of situation wouldn't happen. But it was a very, very jammy goal for Manchester City, and it's just a shame that that stat increases again, where it's now 42% of goals conceded this season have come from corners, which is a real concern. But if that's the only major concern we've got coming away from a Manchester derby, I'm still very happy. And look, yes, City have now only won 1 in 11, but it's on us to capitalise on their poor run of form. And in the end, we have done that. Final word on the elephant in the room. Rashford and Garnacho not in the squad. Ruben Amorim says it's pure rotational reasons because they've played in every single game so far this season, which is true. They have. So are we going to accept that as Manchester United fans? We'll see. There's been a lot of chat this week saying that Rashford is going to be leaving in January. There's been a lot of chat saying that Garnacho could be leaving in January as Ruben Amorim wants to bring in his own players and wants to use our star power players to bring that cash in. And obviously the rumours that it has potentially been Garnacho who's been leaking the side when he's not been included, to the extent that obviously this week the team was leaked last night and Garnacho wasn't in it. So if that's the reason, I have no issue with them moving him on. I love Garnacho. I think he's raw. I think he's talented. But again, the important thing that both of those two players have got to look at today is that neither of those players have been involved in the matchday squad, and Manchester United have won the Manchester derby at City without them. And that is a huge statement, both from the club and from the manager, to say, do you know what? We can still win matches without you. So you can think you're the superstars, you can moan and whinge all you want, but we've got players that can deliver for us in big matches when you two aren't even here. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys discuss that in the comments section down below. As always, thank you very much for watching. We've got a huge cup tie in midweek against Tottenham, which hopefully we can see us into a semi-final because Tottenham are about as in form as Man City are at the moment. So who knows? Maybe we can spring another result in midweek against Tottenham. As always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon.